we look at their product like before anything else. I think even before we jump on a discovery call, we look into the prospect's business and do a bit of research ourselves into the product or the service that they provide. And I think I've said this in like numerous posts before, but you can have the best marketing in the world. If your product or service is bad, no amount of like marketing will be able to rescue it or make it work. So for us, it's important to take on clients who also have a good product so that we can at least make sure that we can make it work.
Hey there, I'm Eric Melcher, and if you want to know how some of the most innovative B2B marketers are scaling their business or clients' businesses, then this is the show for you. Today we have Delia Pitu, who is the co-founder of Nude Digital. This is a B2B marketing agency that prides itself in helping brands take a dynamic approach to standing out and growing their business. Nude Digital does this by utilizing a three-step process, which includes redefining your brand's position, attracting new business through various lead generation campaigns, and converting those opportunities through their demand capture system, which we will get into later on. Delia is actually from Romania, the country that I currently live in, but she is a digital nomad. So we'll get into that as well. Delia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Super excited to chat with you. I've been seeing your content for the past few months on LinkedIn, and I'm like, this girl knows what she's talking about. And I've definitely found it very valuable, and I think the audience will too. But before we get into that, how long have you been a digital nomad?
I'd say about 4 years now, I think, ever since the pandemic started, really. That's when Nude was born, yeah.
Okay. For an agency, where did the Nude name come from? Like, how did that come about?
I get this question a lot. So it's actually a really good story. So in 2019, we were still at our jobs then. We did this trip to Bali, where we're currently living. Some of our friends were doing this like insane trip through Southeast Asia. And they said, oh, come meet us in Bali. It was our first like big trip together. So we met our friends here, and one of the first places we went to was a cafe called Nude. So I think that was the first time when we actually saw digital nomads in action. The cafe was like filled with people on their laptops. I overheard conversations. People were living there. They were working remotely. And I think pre-pandemic times, this wasn't the norm. Yeah. So for us, it was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, it was like an aha moment. Yes, I want this for myself. So that was when we started planning opening an agency. The name Nude, we actually started with like variations from New Digital. So like to bring a new era of digital marketing. And then we went from that to NU Digital, New Digital. And then just saying it out loud a few times, we landed on Nude. And then we realized like it wasn't coincidental that the place where we got the idea for the agency was also called Nude. So we stuck with that.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it is memorable. The first time I saw it, I didn't forget it. And so whenever I see you, what does she do? Or where does she work? Oh, Nude Digital. You don't forget it.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that because we've had like, well, I mean, not now because now people are a lot more open-minded, but a couple of years ago, we were getting some like mixed feedback about it.
Okay, now what were you doing though? Were you still working like in a full-time job? Like how did you take that leap? Because it's a very risky decision, but for you, was it more excitement or was it more like being nudged by somebody else to make that leap?
I wouldn't say nudged by anyone else. So I think we felt really inspired seeing other people do this. And this was like pre-pandemic times. And then we flirted with this idea of like building a business. Our first ideas for a business were actually not for an agency. We were brainstorming like app ideas. We wanted to build this app that mapped out all the like transportation options in Southeast Asia. We found out that was already done. So we started brainstorming business ideas basically because we just wanted to get out of that 9 to 5. We wanted something for ourselves, like to build a business. And then me and Jordan, we both worked in marketing. We just said, like, why don't we just go solo, build an agency, or just let's work as freelancers in the beginning until we figure stuff out. But then we had some time from 2019 to like mid 2020. And we started like thinking more about it. We really liked the idea of having an agency, doing things a bit differently, because there were a lot of things at our current jobs that we didn't really like. I've worked with agencies before in my previous jobs, when I was on the client side, and I didn't like some of the way things were done, like from the agency side. And we both said, I think we can bring something like fresh and new to the table. So let's just do it. And then pandemic happened. It
Yeah.
slightly delayed our plans, but it still happened.
Yeah, I have an agency background myself, but this is many years ago in New York. And I came on, I loved it, had a great time, but then they started giving me more clients. And so that was one of the things that I didn't like because
Oh no.
I was supposed to be full time for one client. And before you know it, I had like four accounts and four different clients.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's how the agency, how they make a lot more money is by allocating more employees to different accounts and charging more for
Yeah.
billing more for those accounts. What was one of the things that you didn't like about working at an agency?
I think that was partially what you described there. I've experienced it myself. So I worked in Bucharest for a year, I think. I worked on client side, I worked on agency side. I didn't really like the dynamic in the agency. I think also because it was like one of the more traditional agencies where you have the creative team, you have the social media team, you have the strategist, blah, blah. I thought that things can be done differently. And the fact that I worked at Procter and Gamble, right? So we worked with like huge agencies, they don't give you the same attention that boutique agencies do. So that's what we focused on from the beginning. We said, I don't want to build this like ginormous agency. I want to work with like quality clients. I want to do quality work because we felt like we had the really good background. And Jordan coming from a B2B background, me coming from a B2C background, combined forces, we had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and expertise under our belts. We really wanted to do things differently, not just follow the same agency structure that people are used to.
Yeah, no, I love that. When you're a boutique and you're small, you can move like a speedboat, just
Yeah.
so much faster. Communication is a lot quicker between teams. I think I read somewhere that once you get like maybe 35, 40 people, then that's when it starts to get a little bit different, juggling multiple different projects and the communication
Yeah.
can start to fall because, small teams, everybody knows what the vision is. They know what the project is. They know who does what. But once you get to a certain level, it gets a little bit harder to keep that
Absolutely.
good team collaboration and everything. Okay, so when a client contacts you, Delia, what is the number one thing that you focus on to determine whether or not your service can really have a positive impact for their business?
We look at their product like before anything else. I think even before we jump on a discovery call, we look into the prospect's business and do a bit of research ourselves into the product or the service that they provide. Because, and I think I've said this in like numerous posts before, but you can have the best marketing in the world. If your product or service is bad, no amount of like marketing will be able to rescue it or make it work. So for us, it's important to take on clients who also have a good product so that we can at least make sure that we can make it work. I've seen lots of agencies that we go through like our competitors' clients is what is normal. And we look at some businesses and I'm like, I don't even want to work with that business because I don't know what I would do for them. So that's why we evaluate from our side as well, because I don't want to just take on clients just to be like, oh yeah, cash in a couple grand a month or whatever, because that's not sustainable. So if I know I can't help a client, I'm just going to say, sorry, I can't help you. Like recently as well, we used to partner with other agencies as well. And someone reached out and said, hey, could you guys help us with this branding project? And the first instinct is, oh yeah, we can do anything. But Jordan and I like really sat down and said, listen, we don't really do branding. That's not what we do. So I was super honest and I was like, listen, I'd love to help, but I don't think I'd be doing a good job and I wouldn't be honest and fair to say, yeah, I can help you out with this. So I'd recommend rather going to a branding specialist. So this is one of our values as well. Like I've always been honest with everyone we spoke to, like all the prospects, all the clients. I'm never going to lie to them and say, I can guarantee a 20% growth in revenue in 3 months.
Yeah. No, I get that too sometimes. Brands will reach out and they're like, hey, we're trying to reach a lot of people in the e-commerce space. Do you have a lot of e-commerce podcasts in your network? And I have a few. I've got like 2 or 3, but not enough for what I would call a group sponsorship, like 7 to 10 podcasts. And I have to turn them down and just be honest with them. Like at this time, I'm just focused on really B2B and SaaS, but maybe in the future I'll get there. But right now, I just don't have a good service that's really going to meet your needs. So I think being honest is the best thing that you can do for clients. So, what is an ideal client for you? Obviously, we got the first thing that you like the product, they have a great product, but what
Yeah.
else?
I think we like gauge from the discovery call how open the business is to testing new things, to like how open they are to new ideas. Because a lot of the times we'll hop on discovery calls and present a few ideas because I don't like to waste people's time. So if someone schedules a discovery call, I'll research their company before, we'll come up with a few ideas just to like to create that excitement for them as well. Because as a client, as a business, I wouldn't want to jump on a discovery call just for someone to ask me questions and then I get nothing out of it. So, yeah, I think the way they react to these ideas that we bring to the table is also important because a lot of B2B founders, a lot of B2B businesses are very reluctant to get creative or like
Yeah.
fresh, innovative ideas and stuff like that. So they're just looking for executioners, someone to execute something they already want to do, but they don't have the people to do it. And that's not really what we want. That's not what we're looking for. Because if I go into a business and they hire me, and I see something's not working, like even if it's outside of our scope, right? Say they hire us for, I don't know, Facebook and Google ads, and they're doing content in-house. If I see it and it doesn't reflect the business's values, it doesn't reflect the product, it doesn't reflect the benefits, etc., and I think, wow, this content plan is terrible, I'm going to tell them because that directly impacts our results as well.
Yeah.
So generally, yeah, it's how they react to like our approach as well that I think matters a lot.
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like your idea was the better idea and you really stood behind it and you believed in it so much that although they didn't see it, they didn't see your point of view, that you still tried other tactics to get your idea across and implement it? Have you ever done anything like that?
A lot. I
I
think
mean,
with B2B, yeah, with
yeah.
B2B, you'll find that there's a lot of resistance to change. There's a lot of like resistance to, I don't want to say innovation, because obviously it's not like we're bringing like completely out of the box innovative ideas to the table. We're just like bringing something that's a bit maybe more controversial or a bit unusual to what they're used to. But yeah, it happened a lot. And I think the way to go about it is that if your client insists on doing it one way and that I know that our ways might work better, what we do is we say, look, let's test both ways and compare results. I think that's the best way to go about it because they
Yeah.
need to see it for themselves.
Yeah.
There's no point in me telling them without some like data behind it. So then
Yeah.
I say, listen, let's test both approaches and see what works best. And then we go from there.
I've gotten in trouble one time where there wasn't enough time to test it. And so they were keen on using it their way. It was a subject line. And I thought it was so poor and so awful that I even told the person, it was this other director for the company. I said, I'll bet you $500 in my own pocket that if we were to test this, that my version will win. But it didn't go so well. At that time, I was a very competitive person. I think if you're a good marketer, you're very competitive and you're
Yeah.
always open to testing ideas. And if you see an awful idea, you want to prevent it from being executed. I think any competitive person would do that. But I remember that very instant moment, and I realized that they weren't very in favor of that idea. And eventually, I found myself. I didn't get let go or anything. I found another opportunity, but I wasn't very well liked after that moment.
It can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another question for you. You guys have this 3-step process that helps with the brand's positioning, their lead generation, and conversion. Can you tell us about that process and what it entails, Delia?
Yeah, so we like to take this 3-step approach because it's basically how we build the strategy as well. So in the way we usually go about it, if with bigger projects particularly, is that we go through 1 month of positioning where we sit down with the client, we go through their entire like brand message, their ideal customer profile, try to identify what the customer's pain points are, how their product or service solves that. So it's a whole month of going through this positioning, the brand positioning, to see how much work they've already done, how much work there still needs to be done. And then obviously based on this, we create the strategy. Because it's very difficult for us to create a digital strategy without this information. We need to know exactly who we're targeting, why they would respond to our ads or content, like what emotional cues they respond to, like what triggers them, etc. It's basically like psychology work that we do with the brand, but it needs to be done. And then the strategy basically consists of an attract and convert system. So here we think about strategies to put the brand in front of people, create awareness, create that demand. And here we'd be using content, Facebook ads for awareness or like TikTok ads, etc., depending on each client's case, on their business. And then for the demand capture, usually what we recommend a lot is Google ads, Facebook ads again, but at a different stage of the funnel. Email works well as well. So we don't have a set system that we implement for everyone because obviously every business is different, but we try to follow this like 3-step approach.
Okay. And then the conversion aspect, can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so that was where I was saying more like for the demand capture, where you use like Google ads, because that would basically sit at the bottom of the funnel, because the people who were searching for a particular product or service on Google, obviously they're already hot leads, right? There's a super high intent. So the most useful tool to capture super high intent is Google ads. At the same time, Facebook ads can work. They can work as a demand capture, like for conversion, email as well. So it's basically the same. We work across these two phases, attract and convert, with the same range of services, but it's just at different stages of the funnel.
All right, folks, time for a quick break here. Having worked as a marketer for many, many years, I've come to the conclusion that the right tool can be a game changer. That's why I'm excited to talk to you about Leadfeeder, a tool that helps you cut through the data and turn those website visitors into solid leads. Leadfeeder shows you which companies are checking out your site, tracking their behavior, and integrates all this with your CRM. Result? Your secret weapon for targeted lead engagement and making it easier for your team to convert website traffic into sales. Head to leadfeeder.com and get a free trial today. You can also get an extended premium free trial when you let them know you heard about Leadfeeder through the B2B Marketers Can Laugh podcast. Okay, back to the show. And do you spend like a certain amount of budget on each channel as part of the strategy? Or do you have like a good intuition already that, hey, for this product, it's going to work better on Facebook, and so therefore we should allocate more budget on into Facebook? Like, how does that work?
We usually have our assumptions based on the type of product, the type of business. Like SaaS, for example, could be very different to, I don't know, like accounting or executive search. But we've learned the hard way sometimes that assumptions don't always reflect reality, especially now because consumers are changing so much, the platforms are changing, the environment is changing. The old assumptions are not so valid anymore. So we do make assumptions, but we always prefer testing. So that's why in the beginning, we allocate a certain budget for testing, and we make a decision after we see the results from those tests, just so we don't go into it blindly.
Yeah. What's like the minimum budget amount that you advise clients? And let's say they're just trying to attract clients in North America or new customers in North America, and they're open to doing Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, TikTok, or Google. Is there like a minimum monthly budget that you recommend?
North America is a very big market. So depends if you're trying to target like all states or if you want to start smaller with like specific states. We've had clients that started with $20 a day all the way to thousands of dollars a day. So it's a matter of how much budget you have available. 2, what you're trying to achieve. 3, how scalable it is. Because just to give you another example, obviously it's not North America, but one of our clients, they offer their service only in a specific geographical region, right? Okay. It's repeat business, but you wouldn't buy it like every month. Like you can get repeat customers, but you wouldn't buy it every month. So obviously there we're limited a little bit in terms of scalability, right? So there's only so much you can scale your budget. Like there, I wouldn't scale the budget like every month, every year, etc. But then again, if your product is scalable, then and you have available budget, I don't think I would go anywhere near like under 2-3 grand a month. And that's like me being kind. Because really, like North America is a huge market. It's super competitive. I've seen a huge range of cost per purchase in Google Ads. So it's a matter of testing, right? So you need to test, get an estimate, a benchmark for cost per purchase, and then go from there based on available budget and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into LinkedIn, because ever since I launched B2B Pod Pros, which is a B2B podcast media network, we give brands the ability to do a podcast sponsorship across multiple podcasts. Since I don't have a big budget, I've been really focused on LinkedIn, specifically the outreach part. The outreach part specifically, Delia, what I'm doing here is I'm personalizing basically a referral request, reaching out to my network and messaging a person, asking if they know somebody who would be interested in podcasting as a growth channel. But I personalize it. So I'll actually go to their profile and
Mm-hmm.
I just feel, what are they doing? And I try to reference that in my message, right? However, it's taken me a long time. It could easily take me an hour to send just 10 messages that are personalized. It has worked. I've gotten a lot of referral opportunities from it. It doesn't cost anything. It does cost my time. But are you guys doing anything around LinkedIn that you found saves you time? Maybe a specific tool or a specific process when it comes to like outbound? And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like
So
personal. It doesn't have to be personalized outreach either.
I think the way you're doing it is better because it's super like high quality, super personalized approach. As a lead, as a prospect, I think I'm more inclined to respond to you if if I can tell that message has been written out personally, not put into the mass
Right.
automation system, whatever. There are tools that you can use, but usually what we recommend with these tools is using them to expand your network, to expand your audience so more people see your content, not necessarily to sell directly.
Okay.
We've done a lot of research recently, especially into B2B buying journeys. Outbound cold messaging is less and less effective, like year on year and year. And now there's been like a survey done on B2B buyers. Most B2B buyers, they'll do the research themselves. Most of the times they'll reach out to sales reps or like to businesses themselves.
Yeah.
They're moving slowly into a self-service system. So it can work, but it's not the same approach that we used 2-3 years ago, where you'd
Yeah.
send a cold message on LinkedIn and you'd potentially make a sale. So I think the way you're doing it is definitely like the better approach.
Okay. Okay.
What you can also do.
On that note, real quick, if a B2B company comes to you and says, Delia, we're willing to use your favored marketing tools to grow our business, which tools would you recommend? And also include the one that you said helps distribute or spread content on LinkedIn, because I'm curious to know which one that is.
You mean as a like a marketing technology like Martech?
Yeah, MarTech tools. It could be anything. It could be email, also email marketing tool. Maybe there's like a CRM tool that you guys like. I'm just trying to get an idea. What are some of your favorite tools for the clients that you serve?
That's an interesting question. Let me have a think. I think in terms of like project management, for example, we use ClickUp a lot. That's
Okay.
where we onboard our clients, and it's a tool that we use very often. Email platforms, I'd recommend Active Campaign. It's one of the best platforms we've used, and it's a platform we use with our clients as well for email automation, for newsletters, etc. I've used MailChimp a little bit, but I still prefer Active Campaign. Definitely recommend Active Campaign. And let me see, Dripify I'd use for LinkedIn automation, just to expand your audience, not necessarily for cold messaging.
It's
We
called
use it
Dripify?
to, yeah. So we use this to expand our network. We automate sending connection requests with a personalized message and make people aware of your brand. What happens here is that if you have like a conversation with someone in DMs, their content is going to pop up in your feed more often.
Yeah.
So this is also like a strategy that we like to use. Even if you're not cold selling through DMs, then you're still like carrying a conversation. So they're more likely to see your content, which means they're more likely to be nurtured faster. Let me think. And ChatGPT.
Of course. Okay. Very, very cool. Now, what's something that you've done in the past 12 months that has helped you become a better marketer, Delia?
Whew. First of all, we've completely like restructured internally. We are now focused solely on B2B marketing, and we've basically done a lot of research in the past 12 months into B2B marketing, into B2B buying journeys, how this is changing, and this has led to us restructuring our services and our offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say this research primarily that we've done into the B2B buying journey has had a big impact on the work that we do. And it's changed the work that we do for our clients as well, because we've implemented new strategies that have completely changed like the trajectory of the revenue growth.
Give us an example.
So yeah.
Come on, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it actually has been. We've been working with some like SaaS, B2B SaaS businesses for a couple years now. And we started the traditional way with, they had the product pictures, product videos, like this is how you use it, this is how you plug it in, blah, blah. They were doing okay, but we weren't achieving that consistency that you want, that incremental growth month on month in revenues. Their business being seasonal as well, we'd see like a lot of ups and downs in purchases because we were doing a lot of Facebook and Google ads. And then after we started doing this research, we started taking this B2C approach to B2B marketing. And this is something that Jordan and I like to talk about a lot in our content. So what we did is that we started creating user-generated content for ads. We started working with creators for B2B SaaS. Completely changed the game. Completely. Like that consistency that I was saying that we couldn't achieve, we halved the CPA. That was an incredible result. Incremental growth month on month. And what the founders have done is that they've created this like comparison chart for the cost of acquisition, not just for ads, but like at a top level across the whole business. And even like the cost of acquisition went down, but I think 30 or 40% like year on year. So it was an incredible result. And it was like, again, proof that what all the research that we've done in like this whole direction that we're taking, it was proof that it is the right direction and it is the way B2B marketing should be done now in 2024. And that we want to like make more B2B businesses aware of this, because a lot of them, and we've looked into B2B marketing agencies, no one is really like talking about this that much. I think we've only just found like one agency in the whole of UK that talks about this fresh creative approach to B2B marketing. And it's shocking.
Yeah. Now, is there a certain platform or tool that you use to work with the creators, or did you contact them individually?
We contact them individually. I know there are lots of UGC platforms. I might start using that soon as well. We've used Fiverr a lot until now for creators. I found a lot of good creators. Most of them obviously are in the States. Struggle to find creators in other countries, but it's definitely an increasing market. So when I was researching creators, for example, in Australia, like a year ago, I could barely find any. Like I remember the business we were working with, they had to reach out to actors because we couldn't find any Australian UGC creators. Yeah. Now there's loads.
Yeah. It's interesting you said Fiverr, because I've used Fiverr to find somebody who can research creators on Instagram and TikTok for me. Did you do the same thing, or did you look for actual creators on Fiverr?
We looked for actual creators because I like to go by reviews. For me, that's like super important.
Okay.
Because a lot of the times there'll be businesses leaving a review saying, basically their review would say, this creator helped me get, I don't know, increased purchases by X amount or whatever. Yeah. So I usually like scan their reviews to see how much the content helped.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times they could be like fantastic video editors, but they just don't have that factor, that wow factor that resonates with the audience. Or you need to be a good speaker, but then you also it needs to fit in with a client's ICP. So that means like physical aspect as well, which is crazy that we're judging by this, but it has to, because if I'm targeting teachers, for example, and I'm looking for someone that kind of has that like teacher look or can put it on, etc.
No, absolutely. In my experience, I looked, find creators that use these specific hashtags. And that's how the research was done. But I love that approach that you're looking for them specifically so you can see the reviews about them. Were there also like B2B creators on Fiverr, or was it mostly B2C creators that you found?
So they're mostly, this is the thing, right? So they're mostly B2C.
Yeah.
But this is particularly why we want to use them, because they have that like direct to consumer experience. So they speak to the audience differently than a B2B creator. I don't even think there are that many B2B creators. B2B creators is usually what we call like creators on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true. So true that most of the platforms out there that are for B2B influencers or creators are projects like, hey, do a post about me on LinkedIn. And you're starting to see more of that. And for me, it's a little bit irritating. It's, oh my God, this is the third post I've seen on this day for this brand. And if I continue to see a lot of those sponsored posts, but they look like they're organic posts, but I know they're sponsored posts, I'm probably going to be inclined to like stop following this person's content because I just know that, hey, he's being paid, he or she's being paid to do that. That's so interesting. I love that. Go find B2C creators to actually do UGC content for you for B2B. And then try to find them on Fiverr and look at reviews. Okay. This is really cool. This is good stuff here. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's head to the rapid fire here. Questions for you. Ooh. Give me the first thing that pops into your head. Are you ready? Are you ready, Delia?
Hope so. Let's go.
All right. Okay, let's go. First question for you. What is the most interesting thing you did in the last 26 days?
Oh my gosh. I won a paddle tournament.
You won a paddle tournament?
Yeah.
Like a swimming paddle or like a ping?
Like tennis paddle?
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Well, we should play sometime next time you're in Bucharest. I love tennis. Yeah. All right. What is a favorite TV show you can watch again and again?
Friends.
Oh my God, you're like my wife. Oh my God, she can watch the show over and over. Okay, next question for you. $25,000 cash or dinner with Gary Vee?
Cash.
You said that, duh. Okay.
It's because, all of his knowledge is online.
Exactly. Okay, next question. Does corn belong on pizza?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I thought we could be friends.
Sorry.
Okay, a couple of more questions. Let's see here. Craziest thing you ever did to make money or save money?
I don't think I've ever done anything too crazy to make money or save money. Probably like sell my clothes. I don't know.
Okay, last
Nothing
question.
Nothing too crazy.
Last question for you. I grew up in blank, and my favorite thing about that city is blank.
Okay, I grew up in Constanza, and my favorite thing about that city is probably the beach.
All right. There you go, folks. There you have it. Delia, co-founder of Nude Digital. I will put links to her LinkedIn profile as well as their website on the show notes. And for all those listening, I want to say we appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe link, tell others about it. Delia, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is Eric signing off.